A dandelion sways in the breeze. A man yells, "Dandelions!" rips them out by the roots and mows his field to smooth, green perfection. The rain comes down. The sun shines down to coax the stems up once more, fully blooming, yellow and swaying, a landing pad for bees to gather their pollen. Night and day. Night and day. Night and day. Until the flowers are white puffs, light softness, dancing contentedly. The man yells, "There!" A hand descends, grabbing the trembling stem, and a million seeds escape his grasp.
Number 1. Say the word airplane.
Airplane.
Number 2. Say the word hot dog. What? Say the word hot dog. Hot dog. Number 3. Say the word ice cream. Say the word ice cream. Say the word ice cream!
Enough! Different things they do to keep us signing in school. This is how it might happen.
Forcing us to clasp our hands, to sit on our hands, taping our hands to our desks,
Forcing us to wear mittens so we cannot sign.
punishing us by making us kneel on broomsticks, by making us carry heavy books,
If we sign, slapping our hands with rulers so we cannot. Do you think that stops us? No, we have many ways. How do we get through it? When it's bedtime, under the sheets, we turn on a light and we sign.
We make up stories with our friends. We sign in secret. We accidentally flush our hearing aids down the toilet. We protest. We march. We throw off our oppressors and we never give up. We sign. We sign. We sign.
We sign.
We sign. We create poetry in our sign language.
As you can see, we sign our beautiful sign language.
Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. 'Twas brillig in the slithy toves, did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the Burgos, and the mommy wraths outgrave. Beware of the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware of the jub bird, and shun the frumious bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword at hand, long time the mandsome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while, and thought. And as an unfish thought he stood, the Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came rifling through the tawdry woods and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker snack. He left it dead, and with his head, he went galloping back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous day, Kalu Kale, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig in the slithy toves, did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the Burgos, and the mommy wraths outgrave.
Stories. Oh, this is gonna be good, I bet. Oh, that's me. There I am. I'm deaf. I was born that way. We know that tired story that many of us have experienced, sitting at the dinner table with our hearing family members and not being in on what everyone's talking about. When we ask what's going on, they say, oh, it's not important. We'll tell you later. We all know that story. I have always been hungry, but not hungry for food. Hungry for interaction, for language. I've never been fed enough. I want more. When I was 3, I became a student at Rochester School for the Deaf. Here in Rochester. Well, not here, elsewhere in Rochester. At that time, signing was not the way of the world. We used the Rochester method, only fingerspelling, but it wasn't fast and impossible to read. Things became a little more crazed later on, after my time. We would say, I went to the store, and I bought some candy. Very moderately paced fingerspelling. That's how it was. So I learned the alphabet, communicated in that way, but that wasn't what I was looking for. I wanted something more. When I was 10, I attended a summer camp with students from schools for the deaf from all over. It was amazing. All the other students were signing in so many different ways, things I had never seen before. There were some kind of home signs that I'd used before, but I'd never seen anything like this. I wanted to be fed. I wanted to take in all of this language as fast as I possibly could. I wanted to get my connection into that community and gain that language. I was there for 2 weeks. When I came back to RSD, I signed in a new way. People weren't into that, but I didn't give up. I kept practicing my signing, getting better and better. I became involved in athletics, and of course, we played against teams from other schools for the deaf, which meant I got to interact with students from all over. We talked, we communicated, not during games of course, but before and after, and all the different sports that I was involved in, I was able to learn and pick up more language from all these other students. I got more and more language. When I graduated, I still had a lot to learn. I was still hungry. I began working at RSD. You know, here in Rochester. I'm not sure exactly where, but it's here. I remember a workshop that I attended one day, and the topic was playing with your hands. Didn't know what to expect, and in walked the presenter. You may be familiar. It's Patrick Graybill. Really, just an amazing person. And when you fingerspell his name, the ending handshake that you sometimes end up with is the same one as I love you, which I think is very appropriate. During this workshop, when he picked up his hands and started to create stories and poetry from sign language, it was just amazing. I had never seen anything like that. I remember on that day, he described a way to get the idea of reflection across, like this. It was actually creating a reflection and fingerspelling the word reflection. It made so much sense. Around that time, I went to another performance. The presenter came onto stage. Dennis Webster. He lived here locally, but had a long and storied career with the National Theater of the Deaf. Very experienced, well-known actor. I was taken aback by how he presented an ABC story. This was nothing new to me. I'd seen ABC stories for a long time. But the way he presented it was exemplary. One of the themes was Sunday morning. He would use the A handshake to show waking up. B would be putting on slippers. C, drinking coffee. So much sense. Even if someone did not know sign language, they would understand what was going on in the story. That really impacted me. Seeing Patrick Graybill and Dennis Webster and their use of language is something that has truly made me part of who I am now. Still hungry. I wanted more. I always have been wanting more. Again, remember I was working at RSD at this time, which was amazing because I had the ability to interact with all of the students there. I gave them language, they gave me some of their language, and I just felt like I was getting more of what I'd always been wanting. That hunger that I had was beginning to be filled just a little bit. I remember looking back when I was a child, I wanted language, and I was trying to provide that to these students. But I have to say, tomorrow, I'm still going to be hungry. Maybe some of you can feed me.
Oh, that's me, okay. Picture this, a beautiful warm beach, a Latinx family, over in the Dominican Republic. A woman walking by, she's 8 months pregnant. Suddenly she becomes ill. She has a high fever, rash. After a few weeks, that subsides. She's 9 months, ready to give birth. And who comes out? Me. Fast forward, I'm about 1 year old, 1 year old, and my mom calls me, but with no response. She calls me again, Guillermo, but nothing. Her concerns begin to persist, so she schedules an appointment with the audiologist to see what is going on. An audiogram later, the audiologist informs my mother that I am deaf. My mother began heartbroken over this news. I became the first deaf person in my family. The audiologist gave me a hearing aid to see if it would help. So I went along and used them. I went to public school over in the Dominican Republic, and I learned through spoken Spanish. Days in the classroom I would daydream, look out the window, look to the right, look to the left, I would see my mom. She worked as a principal at the time. As I would stay in the classroom, I wouldn't understand a thing, and I wouldn't pay attention much as well. Yeah, my experience in school wasn't good and it didn't seem to improve. My mom was concerned over this situation, so she began to look for another school. It was a deaf institute over in Dominican Republic. And keep in mind, Dominican Sign Language is quite similar to ASL. So I learned sign there. And as I began to learn, I still was not improving. I was very isolated. My mom did encourage me to socialize though. However, it didn't work. It was picture day over at the school, and I was ready to take my headshot. Tight-lipped, I took a photo. The photographer said, "Can you please smile?" I didn't, still tight-lipped. The photographer asked one last time, "Can you please smile?" I gave him a smirk. That pretty much sums up my experience at the school. My mom was still concerned, wondering if I would succeed or continue to stay in the place I was. She asked if it would be better if we would move to the States. After a while and some long discussions, we finally decided to move to the United States. Where did we move specifically? New York City. And boy, was it cold, and busy, and loud. Wow, I was not used to it. It was nothing like the Dominican Republic. We didn't experience the Four Seasons. It was quiet and small. This was quite the opposite. So I began being homeschooled with English, but I didn't know English. I knew Spanish, so I guess I had to learn this. And that was fine. So that was the second language I learned, English. Still clueless and not understanding much, my mom decided that it might be better to mainstream me into school. During that experience, I met other students and I learned my third language, Sign Exact English. And I began to sign. Using that, I began to socialize as well. Was that experience good? Was the picture perfect? Not really. My mother, tight-lipped, tried to figure out another situation to put me in. So she found another school. It was the oral approach as well, sign, and using some speaking as well. Did it get better? Yes, but the picture still was not perfect. I was still behind in school. My mother's concern began to persist. She looked for other schools and she finally found the Deaf Institute, Lexington School for the Deaf. It's over in Queens. And once I arrived, I began to meet the other students, but they signed ASL. And I did not understand ASL. And as I began to interact with these students and use my signed exact English, they didn't really recognize that either. And they began to criticize me for that. So after a while, I became used to ASL, and I really worked hard to pick up my ASL skills. Did communication at home work? Well, not so much. We did use contact language to get by, English, Spanish, and writing. I began to sign at school, but I didn't sign at home. So I had to I tried to figure out who I was. Was I hard of hearing? Was I deaf? Did I sign? Did I speak? Finally, I graduated Lexington and came here to RIT. And wow, was I overwhelmed. The culture, Latinx culture, all of the different cultures, the diversity was thriving here at RIT. I was involved in various clubs, in activities, so many things. And I began to figure out who I was through those experiences. I met one person and they taught me how to love myself. And I tried to figure out what that meant to me. And as I began to look at my life, I realized I faced a lot of hardships, a lot of isolation, a lot of miscommunication. I was trying to figure out who I was through those experiences. However, even though communication wasn't perfect, my family was still there for me, and I learned a lot about myself through that experience. And I love and understand myself as well through that. I learned who I was as a Latinx person. And I'm thankful for that person who told me to love myself. And remember, if you feel alone, you are not alone, and you can grow. And make sure you love yourself as well.
I've been told I look just like my mom. Short, with dark, wavy hair. But she's here. And she always wanted to join the Peace Corps and help people, but she decided to put family first. I've been told that the small village my father's family came from in Ireland, practically deserted now. All the potato crops were dying, and they were hungry. So they left and landed in Brooklyn. I've been told everyone in my family speaks so fast and loud, skipping their R's and peppering in Italian slang. People don't believe that they ever even left Brooklyn. I've been told I gesture like my mom, but I do not share her affinity for church. She goes every Sunday and hosts Easter at our house. I've been told these are my people. But I claim, as my ancestors, the artists whose handprints are still in the caves in France. I claim as my language, the language of hands, carried from France and Spain and grafted to what grew in this soil. I claim as my history the journeys of signing people, those isolated and those interconnected. those whose lives affirm mine. I claim, as my family, all of you, my brothers and sisters who do not share my coloring or geography. These claims I make regardless of what I've been told. This is our revered deaf ancestor, George W. Veditz. He is a shining light in our community. His leadership is unparalleled. His example is truly inspiring. He was involved in the NAD Motion Picture Preservation of Sign Language project, and we all are still signing here today. He taught at the schools for the deaf in Maryland and Colorado and served as NAD's 7th president. He is the one who christened us People of the Eye. Pictured next to George is his wife, Bessie. As you can see, his accolades are endless. His life and his example have been truly essential to our community. I'd like to share an anecdote with you from the year 1932. Veditz had finished teaching for the day at the School for the Deaf in Colorado and was crossing the street, where he was struck by a vehicle that then immediately left the scene. He was injured and rushed to the hospital, where he had to stay recovering for 10 weeks. After he was dismissed from the hospital, he decided to fight for his rights, which was no small thing at that time. He presented his case in court. The driver who had struck him was young, had taken his parents' car without permission, was out of control, didn't have a license. The court deliberated over this case. Let's see how the jury decided. Upon hearing the evidence of the case, the jury decided to acquit the driver, that it's lost. When asked for a reason why he lost, Veditz received the answer, well, maybe you weren't paying attention. He didn't agree. He wrote his side of the story and published it. We can think of the deaf community as a boat. Veditz is like the rudder of this boat. Without leaders like him, we are off course, we are aimless and foundering. We need these kind of leaders to fight for us, to help us gain the rights that are duly ours and become successful. That was his wish for all of us. Remember Veditz. Remember his desire for our community to stay united. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome.
What are you doing over there? Why are you fingerspelling everything?
I am here for the show. Same as you.
Same as you. Please. Why are you fingerspelling though? Can you just stop? The audience does not want to read fingerspelling this whole time.
No, they understand me. Goodbye.
Please just stop. Fingerspelling is so outdated. It's 2019 now. We sign. Newsflash.
Really? But it is my business. They understand me.
Hey, everyone out there. Audience, do you understand him? No. See? Boring. Stop.
Really? Then please leave me alone. Go away. Goodbye. Move. I will sing the national anthem.
I'm sorry, what? Are you really going to fingerspell the entire national anthem? Please do not subject us to this.
Move. Leave me alone. Let me do my job. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's...
No, please, 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 just stop. This is horrible. You are making me sick. I cannot stand it one more moment. Please just stop. Be done.
Leave me alone. Let me finish. Move. That way. No, move. Where was I? Oh, right. And the rocket's red.
I am sorry. I cannot abide this. Please stop. I have an idea.
What?
Let's race.
Really? A race? What race?
Let's see who can fingerspell the alphabet the fastest.
Excuse me? I will win.
I don't think so. Anyway, do you want to do it? Whoever wins will be the way that we communicate for the rest of the time. Signing for your spelling.
You're serious. Sure, but I will win.
Okay,
Okay,
are you ready?
ready.
Go on.
Who won?
You did not win. I won. I beat you.
I won. I won. I did.
No, I won.
No.
Hey. Who won?
Who won?
Who won?
No! I won! No!
I won. I definitely won.
No. I want to do it again.
You want to do it again? No, I definitely won. No redos.
Yes. Let's do it again.
Are you serious?
Fine. Let's do this. I won. Yeah.
No, I definitely won, right?
I won. Was it me?
Did I win? Me?
Me. I won.
No, it was me.
We both won.
We both won? Really?
Fine. Whatever. So, we both won.
Both won.
So what do we do?
I don't know. What do we do?
You fingers spelled too?
No, that's different though. That doesn't count.
No, I saw it. I saw
Oh,
it.
wait, you just signed. I saw you do the sign.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Uh,
This is super confusing.
oh my gosh. Let's sign it.
Wait, you signed? Okay.
No,
Team.
we're a team. Okay.
We're a team.
That, yes.
That.
That. Yes. Cat.
Dog.
Dog?
I
Sign
can,
cat.
I can sign dog.
Oh, this is cool.
I can figure spell.
Oh, this is
Amazing.
cool. Let me do some more. Come on. Let's
This
go
is
talk.
with me.
I'm so glad. I want to stay.
I need to put, oh, wait, fingers.
No, we gotta go. So I have always been a rebellious girl. When I was growing up, I would flush my hearing aids down the toilet or I would hide them around the house. And as I got older, I realized I liked hearing. So when I was about 11 or 12, I started to notice I couldn't hear as well with my hearing aids. And I would turn the volume all the way up, and I still couldn't hear. So I thought about it and I decided. One day, I was with my mom in the car, and I turned to her, and I told her, "Mom, I want to cook your implant." And my mom's response was to break down in tears. So please understand that my mom is very supportive of me. She learned sign language, she learned deaf culture, and she learned all of that because I'm deaf. So we talked and we agreed. We went to an audiologist to discuss this with the audiologist. And I was denied, and I was enraged. And they said it's because I'm too young, I haven't had enough speech therapy, and a long list of other reasons. So So they thought that they were just going to dismiss me and that would be it. But no, I kept on going. I kept pestering them for an entire year. And finally, they got so sick of me, they decided to give me my cochlear implant. So I went in, got my surgery, and I was able to use it. And up until today, I still use it. So one day, my mom saw that audiologist, and they got to chatting. So the audiologist asked my mom, "Hey, does your daughter still use her cochlear implant every day and she goes to speech therapy?" My mom's answer was, "Oh yes, Maliki uses her cochlear implant every day, but going to speech therapy? Oh no. She just wants to use her cochlear implant to hear." And the audiologist was flabbergasted. So I love listening to the sounds of birds, the ocean crash, the wind, the music of nature. I use my cochlear implant for that. I'm a proud deaf person who happens to have a cochlear implant.
Oh wow, that's me. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that picture. It's kind of like art, right? Wow. That's me over there as well. I just want to let you know that technology can change your life. Technology keeps evolving, so do we. I'm going to tell you a story about how this happened. I'm sure you're all familiar with dating apps, right? So say, for example, if you're not interested in a person, you could swipe left. If you are, you can swipe right. And if you want to look at their profile, you can swipe up. You can see their hobbies, what they like and don't like, so on and so forth. So I was home one night looking through my dating app, and I swiped left, I swiped right, and then it was a match. And just to let you know, if you do find a match, a chat box will open. So this person I was in the chat box with, I said, "Hey, you're beautiful." "Oh, thank you. Would you like to go out and get some coffee?" "Sure. How about Friday at 4? "Yeah, let's do it." "All right, I'll see you Friday night." Oh, I was so excited. I have a date. Wonderful. And then that led me to realize, I opened the chat box and said, "Hey, I'm deaf, by the way." And you know when the 3 bubbles come up and they go down? So they didn't respond. A few moments later, they did answer, but they said, "Hey, I don't know any sign language." Oh, and I told them, "Don't worry about it. We will figure it out, okay?" "Okay. Do you still want to go out?" "Sure, let's do it." "All right, I'll see you Friday then." So I was so excited. Fast forward to Friday night, I go to the coffee shop, and it is quite gorgeous in there. I take a seat and wait for my date to arrive, and lo and behold, what do I see out the window? This fine specimen walking in high heels and red lipstick, curly hair. I'm looking and I wave her down. She notices me, so we lock eyes, and I gesture, "How are you?" Oh, I'm fine." "That's great. Would you like to go grab a drink?" "Oh, yeah. So we go over, we get our drinks and take a seat, and I am so excited. I take a shot of my coffee, and then I pull out my phone, and I begin to text. And of course, she looks at it, and it's a compliment. She's like, "Oh, thank you so much." And I did not understand what she was saying. So I pull out my phone and put out an app, and she looks at it reluctantly, and I gesture, "Hey, speak through the speakerphone." And she speaks through it, and realizing it's voice recognition, so whatever she says shows up in a text box. And then I'm able to see what she's saying, and we're going back and forth during the date. As the date commences, I say, "Hey, I have to go." And we kiss each other on the cheek, and then I go home that evening. But she wasn't interested in me because she felt like there wasn't any chemistry. So that's fine. I go on my dating app again, and I swipe left, swipe right, match. Oh, didn't work out. Swipe left, swipe right, match. Hey, by the way, I'm deaf. Oh, didn't work out again. Swipe left, swipe right, match. We have a date. They weren't interested. So that goes on again and again. Third, fourth, fifth, same old story. Until one night, I have a date, and I'm sitting and waiting in that coffee shop, and lo and behold, what do I see out the window? This chiseled figure. And wow, is he handsome. I wave him down, he sees me, we take a seat, and I gesture, how are you? And guess what happened? He signs, and I'm okay. All right, he signs. You want to grab a drink? Yeah, but first, my name is Jeae. Oh, that's cute. When you say A, you mean S, right? So your name is Jessie. Oh, yes, my name is Jessie. Would you like a drink? So we go and grab our drinks, we take a seat, and we're chatting. We're using the phone, we're using some sign, going back and forth. And the date commences, and I say, hey, well, I gotta go. And Jessie grabs my phone, and you know what happens? He speaks through the phone, and I look at the text box, and he says he wants a second date. And I respond, absolutely, let's do it. So the second date is perfect, and it goes on to the third and the fourth and the fifth, and a year later, that becomes a relationship. So remember when I told you in the beginning, technologies can change our lives for the better. Oh, that's so cute.
Am I deaf? I think so. No one would believe that about me. For a long time. No one. As a child, my parents were very clear. They said, you are not deaf. Deaf people don't speak, and you can speak. Deaf people sign, and you can't do that. You are not deaf. That's something I believed about myself. I wasn't deaf. But I knew that I couldn't hear. My parents knew that. The deaf community recognizes that a cochlear implant is just a tool. The hearing world doesn't see it that way. The marketing world sees it as a magic fix. Research, interviews, parents who have children with cochlear implants all reinforce the idea that if someone gets a cochlear implant, they will be just like a hearing person. I got a cochlear implant. It wasn't a magic fix. I wasn't just like my parents. I wasn't just like a hearing person. But I'd always been told I wasn't deaf. I decided to identify as a deaf person. I knew I was deaf because my friends could pick up the phone and call someone, and I couldn't do that. I knew I was deaf because when I was hanging out with friends, they told me I was being too loud. I knew I was deaf because from the ages of 6 to 9, my parents gave me weekly injections to try to preserve the little residual hearing that I did have left. I knew I was deaf because in science class, when the teacher passed out tuning forks and said, hit them against your desk, you'll see it vibrate and you'll hear something. I did. I saw something, but I didn't hear anything. I knew I was deaf because sometimes I would have a conversation with a hearing person and not understand a word they said. I did have a teacher of the deaf. I was pulled out of my regular classes every week to do speech therapy because I had the cochlear implant. I remember one day I told my teacher about the most amazing dream I'd had the night before. Sitting around a table with friends, chatting. And I understood everything they were saying. The first time they said it. The first time in 14 years, I understood everything my friends were talking about. I told them I wanted to transfer schools. I wanted to be around other deaf people. I wanted to learn how to sign. And of course, you know what that response was. But you're not deaf. I wasn't having it. I fought with the school, I fought with my teachers, with my parents, with the doctors, with the audiologists, and I did transfer schools. I did sign. But does that mean I was happy in this deaf program? I remember one of the first days of school, sitting with 3 girls, signing away. And again, I understood nothing of what they were saying. The same old thing that I had been experiencing my entire life, it just looked a little bit different now. They saw me as a hearing person. I couldn't understand their signs, I was awkward. And I could speak. They wrote me off as hearing. So I got to work. For 4 years, I went to deaf events. I met deaf people. I interacted with those deaf students at my school. I worked to pick up American Sign Language. I didn't have a home. I didn't have a community before this. I didn't have any sort of anything to anchor me down. And I wanted that. Now I'm here at RIT, and I still work. I still am learning to sign. I am still meeting people. And here, I do sit with my friends around the table, and I do understand everything they're talking about because we are all signing. Does that mean I'm happy now, though? Have I arrived? Sometimes I still meet a hearing person, and we have a conversation, and I understand nothing. And I say, I'm deaf. And I get that response, no, you're not. You can speak. Sometimes I meet a deaf person. We have a conversation using sign language, and I say, I'm deaf just like you. And they say, hold on. You are not deaf just like me. You don't look deaf. You speak. So I'll ask you again. Am I deaf? Find out. Let me know. What are hands? Snow falling, flowers blooming, grass waving, leaves falling. This world expressed for you. What a nice poem. This is an original work by Clayton, Valli. But I feel like it's missing something. Maybe a little audience participation. We'll show you what to do, and then we'll all sign it together. Ready? Copy me. Ready? Copy me. What are hands? Again? Oh. Whatever you were doing. What are hands?
Follow me. Snow falling. Again. Snow falling.
Flowers blooming. Flowers blooming. Flowers blooming. Grass waving. Grass waving. Grass waving.
Leaves falling. Leaves falling. Leaves falling.
All of this expressed for you. You can do better than that. Come on, let's hear it. All of this expressed for you. All right. Ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? What are hands? Snow falling, flowers blooming, grass waving, leaves falling. All of this expressed for you. That was just